Hello and welcome to the Crypto Beat. My name is Tim Copeland and I'm the head of growth at The Block. Joining me today we have co-host Kelvin Sparks and my close London friends Harry and Joel Horsfall, the co-founders of marketing agency Flight3, crypto conference Zebu Live. Welcome to the show. How are we all doing?
Good to be here, Tim. Yeah, Tim, we've come a long way from Crypto Mondays in the bull run of 2021. We've obviously come off a crazy weekend. We have digital asset summits this week in London, so it's a crazy number of side events and dinners, but overall feeling very bullish.
For crypto and DeFi professionals looking to contribute to a team committed to innovation in digital assets, Fidelity Investments is now hiring. Why Fidelity? For starters, they've been exploring Bitcoin and blockchain since 2014. They were the first traditional asset manager to launch a native crypto business and amongst the first to launch a Bitcoin exchange-traded product. Innovation is in their DNA. Fidelity invests in their talent by supporting and developing associates through continued education opportunities, casual crypto-focused discussion groups, and on-the-job experience working with new technologies. If you want to work on cutting-edge products and explore the new frontier of DeFi and blockchain, Fidelity is for you. Fidelity's products continue to improve and evolve, staying ahead of this rapidly changing digital asset landscape. Explore Fidelity Crypto Careers today. Go to crypto.fidelitycareers.com to learn more. That's crypto.fidelitycareers.com. Fidelity is an equal opportunity employer.
Amazing. So yeah, we've got a few topics at hand today. We've got the market crash last week. We've got the reviving London crypto scene. And then of course the upcoming Zebu Live event. So yeah, to kick things off, what did you guys make of the market meltdown last Friday?
I think it was one of those moments that like humbles you, isn't it? Like obviously we saw about the Ukrainian guy that was like found dead in his Lambo. And that's obviously very, very sad because he was looking after other people's money. I'm not a good, I'm too risky. So I don't need leverage and I just hold spot. So personally, I obviously, it goes up, it's great. If it goes down, I carry on with my work. I think there are much bigger things at play than what we're seeing. If you look at the companies that bought in the flash crash, and if you look at the amount of size they have in some of those big institutions, they're not worried. They're just lucky that they can get early entries, I think. So, always be humbled by the markets. I mean, Joel's a better trader than me, and he'll always say, if I'm up too much, it's not because I'm a good trader, it's easy mode. So to be careful, I guess.
Yeah, I think dovetailing onto that is the reality is if you've taken the block quiz, you'll know you're probably about average intelligence or below. And yeah, I think last few months people have been on up only winning, and this is one of those moments that just humbles you back to reality. And I think people get rewarded for taking on risk, and you have to have exposure to risk, whether that's holding bonds, equities, whatever. But I think that crypto, some people take that a step too far, and perps, over leveraged, recklessness, and that will always eventually get wiped when you're least expecting it, because it was a pretty inconspicuous Friday evening, really. It wasn't anything over and above that of like, oh my God, it's carried on. There was a Trump tariff call, which is a sort of a nothing event, in the long term.
But the positives that we saw was DeFi work, we look at Aave, we look at Euler, like it worked, like crazy volumes, crazy stress tests. And if we are building the new financial system, for it to be able to take these crazy events and still work, no bailouts, no, like lots of stock markets, like in Malaysia, when we were listing Luna on Malaysia, if the market moves a certain percentage, the market by regulation rules has to cut. And so we saw DeFi work as how DeFi was meant to work. And, that makes me excited. All of these stress tests are all getting ready. And, we can feel it. We can feel these real grown-up businesses with, not what we've raised, our savings and a few risky bets and some Bitcoin, bringing institutional, pensions, funds, all this kind of stuff on chain. They need to know that DeFi can work. And I think it is the positives. And, like I say, I hope everyone is okay, because it can be stressful. And, one of our good friends, Michael van der Pope, was like, he went from 10 million to 0. You can always make it back, but it's obviously a tough time. But I think the positives I'm seeing is DeFi worked. No government supports, no bailouts, no stop loss. Obviously, so I think that's exciting.
Yeah, you guys mentioned Crypto IQ. I think I got something like 64 in that around sort of very, very mid curve. What do you guys remember? What your scores?
I think I was in at 56 or 57. So Tim, if you've got some time for tutoring, sneak it in there on a Crypto Mondays. But it was tough. I think all of the technical questions got me. I was down bad on those.
I got stuck on the first question and got distracted. But
I can believe that. Yeah. Cool. So what do you guys think the recovery looks like for sort of, I mean, a lot of assets got impacted Friday. Some of them went down crazy amounts. Obviously, we've had some sort of a recovery right now. Do we just sort of get back to normal and shrug this off in a few days like we did with that sort of the Japan yen day crisis we had a while ago? Or is this the start of like, a few more weeks of pain?
So I think it was like one of those like moments where you see who's swimming naked, and it's like, what organic bids are there for these alts? I saw 10% had over 10% of all tokens had over an 85% drop or something like that, and it just shows you what market makers are holding up. These kind of like legacy like projects that have 500 mil cap that are in the top 200 that are kind of who's out there bidding for them and what are they doing. And it was just a real reminder of like, hold something that you have high conviction in and that you want to buy. Like I bought SWE on the dip and it's like bounced straight back up 40%. That's because people are looking for entries for SWE. But some of these tokens that are like 2017 knocking around still, maybe trying to make some kind of tech product that's not got that much product market fit, like hold stuff that you do have conviction in, because I still have a tail end of my portfolio that's in crap, and I always want to consolidate that dust. But it was just another reminder, like you should do that.
Yeah, there was an interesting post by Kobe. He sort of said something similar, that he had also started chasing like narratives and sort of hot tokens purely because he felt like everyone else was sort of getting richer than him. And I thought that was quite interesting, because the sort of widespread assumption is that he sort of made it in life. So it's like, even if you sort of have made it, you still have that feeling that other people are like outperforming you. Because I've definitely felt that over the last few months. I feel like everyone's been sort of getting rich and I've just been sort of like sidelined on everything.
Yeah, because I guess if we look at like what Raoul Powell says, the goal is, the goal is to be Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, and then obviously is in SUI now, and then it's your 20% wild bag to get back into that Bitcoin. The goal is more Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol. And so when we're messing there, and then I think when we look at happiness, to your point, Mo Gaudat was talking a lot about how happiness is the difference between like expectation and reality. So if we didn't expect my squiddies SQD ripped, I completely forgot about them. I'm very happy about it. Whereas if you bought this massive token and you expected that rip, or the happiness gap of expectation looks almost bigger, even if it is going up. And I think we've got to be very grateful. I'm very lucky to have been in Bitcoin for such a long time that and I'm a terrible trader. I'm very lucky when I look at it and it's a 30,000% up trade. And I think even then we're like, oh, when's it getting to 250? And so I think not FOMOing in is the dangerous thing. And I like Joel's point about, Barry Silbert loves Tau at the moment, doesn't he? BitTensor, sort of AI, what is it, like decentralized AI basically. And he loves Tau, and it brought him back to life, because after the last crash, he almost got, and the Geminis, he almost kind of went the thing. But his love for Tau has brought him back into the scene, and I'm excited to see him back. I'm a big Barry fan.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the volatility, like, is it a feature or bug kind of conversation? In this sense, it's kind of about perspective. You see these things that were, like you said, highly available, like well-designed, engineered systems that stood the test of time. You had these communities rally around them. And I think I really enjoy seeing that, because in the midst of it so over, you have a few people screaming, no, we're so back. I mean, Tom Lee buying the dip. But yeah, I was kind of asleep when it happened. So I woke up to a complete dumpster fire. I was like, what? Let me just kind of doom scroll Twitter for 2 hours and actually get a sense of what's going on. But I spoke to one of my buddies at Chaos Labs, and he kind of broke it all down, gave me the quantitative stuff. So Yeah, I mean, it feels like we're through the worst of it, though, in my opinion.
And what did they say at Chaos Labs?
Basically, so there was a lot of illiquid, there was like a lot of these illiquid pools on Binance. And this is what caused like quote unquote depeg in USDE. It made it go down to like 65 cents. And basically what happens is basically like this really quick arbitrage opportunity. I believe it was like in roughly 2 minutes, that gigantic wick down, it caused everything else, probably like algorithms or something like that, everything else to tank with it. So, somebody's always watching what you're doing in crypto. It's crazy.
Wow, yeah. I mean, Binance holds so much power, don't they, at the moment? And we're putting a lot. I actually had a really tough thing happen to me. My phone got snatched out of my hand in London, and they got into my Apple, managed to get into my Binance. I was watching them try. I was like, stop. So it is very scary. But Binance are one of these. I mean, that's what we kind of seen with like Hyperliquid taking off and sort of on chain. It's kind of an interesting move. What's going to happen there? And I don't know. Sexes have a lot of power in this space, and we don't always know what's happening behind the scenes. Whereas when it's on chain, you can. Did you see that person that did the inside? Well, not insider trade, but early trade, like 20 minutes before. You know, they 88 million or something they made on that short on Bitcoin.
Yeah, you sort of got a flip side, like choose your poison. Like if it's an exchange, it can just sort of go down and you can't make any trades. If it's a DEX, fees can spike to like $1,000 a trade. And then you can if you want to spend that much. So it's sort of, there's no perfect solution, I think, right now.
Yeah. As on the bright side, at least on the decentralized side of things, I think you had a lot of these protocols that stood up very, very well, almost graduate to institutional level assets, given they had zero downtime, they operated as expected. So curious to see what comes out of just like the institutional side viewing some of these DeFi protocols, even for usage or even for like investment, I'd say.
Yeah. What do you guys think will happen with Monad? I mean, that's like the checker, airdrop checker is coming up tomorrow. I don't know when it's going to launch, but some point after the checker. I feel like if it hadn't, I'm curious to think, did the market crash impact the potential outcome for the airdrop?
So obviously, to rework in marketing, and like airdrops is such a big part of the launch. And if we look at like how airdrops have developed from people have like used airdrops later and later, and they're such a good marketing activation to get people excited. And we're on the precipice of a lot of airdrops, aren't we? A lot of the big projects like MetaMask, Monad. There's so many getting ready to come, and I think that everyone's asking when alt season's coming, and I feel like once all of those go, to presume they're all going to go at once, it's going to be a very interesting time. But of course, we saw after the ZK Sync and Story and all of those airdrops that went the old playbook that didn't really work. I think people have been cautious with their airdrops a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely sort of come down to a very handful of projects that have found real big success this cycle. I mean, Hype, just to, for instance, I do think it's been very challenging for most projects to really work. So curious to see what it works, see how it goes.
I think the context of the Friday flash crash is quite interesting, because I think more than ever, like normal humans have this, but recency bias will play a huge part. And I think it's just a reminder that all alts can go to zero on Friday. And I think that plays against Monad's favor, because it's like free money could go to zero, maybe like cash some in. I think in general, what happens sometimes with the airdrops is speculation is the product. When you're coming up to, buy the rumor, sell the news. I don't have the stats, but it must be, 98% of the time, kind of in favor of sell the news. So it depends, what marketing bullets they have in the chamber post that launch, because, crypto degen's attention span is extremely short. So they are marketing masterclasses in that team, and I'm sure they've got some good stuff lined up. It's just sometimes hard to match speculative value pushers versus kind of like the hype level of revenue. You know, there's not that many projects that have that PMF straight off the bat in an ecosystem play scenario. So we'll see. Short term is kind of noise, and I think they'll have quite a tough time. But long term, you know, they do have some foundations to go and build something amazing. So, you know, you're gonna have to ask someone over 60% on the crypto IQ test to tell you about the tech. So I'm gonna tap out of that one.
For sure. So what do you guys make of, you know, moving on a little bit, of the London crypto scene these days?
I think it's an exciting moment in the sense that a lot of other, like, just spoke like honing in on Europe, a lot of other European countries sort of like took the lead by, you know, Germany, Portugal, Switzerland all had 0% crypto tax. They got a lot of those early hubs. They were quite sort of pro. But with the recent resurgence into sort of like consumer apps, fintech, and institutional, I think that brings back London into the picture slightly. You know, with like Lisbon, they don't have, you know, Goldman Sachs running a 2-day conference in its like office with its inbuilt amphitheater, and so I do think there's a little bit of resurgence coming for London in the sense that it has a much wider variety of participants, because we believe like Web3 eats Web2. And, you know, when you have the big brands, when you have the institutions, they will cultivate HQs in those locations, which then incorporates Web3 aspects into all of it. It's a bit like in early 2000s, social media marketing was its own department, and now that's just marketing. And, you know, that will happen with Web3. And so there are a ton of companies here. And I do think that like the industry will help encompass Web3, and you'll have a bit of resurgence, but we don't always help ourselves. So it's still a long way to go. But flicker of hope, Mundell's back.
So the fun fact about the UK right now is like we have success that we don't deserve. There is a Chinese lady, she was scamming the world, and she got 60,000 Bitcoin. That Bitcoin got seized by the UK government, making it the 3rd largest sovereign holder of Bitcoin. So there we go. So the UK is holding 60,000 Bitcoin. It doesn't deserve it, but the positive is they now understand it. And if they put that into a government pot, they're the 3rd biggest holder. If America goes ahead with this $1 million Bitcoin buy to build its national reserve, we're straight up there. And, you know, China have 184,000. I think America have 183,000, and then we have 60. So that is really exciting. And suddenly they're like, oh, maybe we can fill a huge deficit with this huge pot. But to give the context of where we've been, 2022, we had Rishi Sunak come out and be like, we're going to make UK the crypto capital of Europe. But then he got waylaid with other stuff, and it kind of, A16Z came over, then they left, because it was nice flashy headlines, but there was no legislation, there was no policy, there was no follow through. And so what's happened now in 2025, the businesses have kind of grown up, and you have Aon, you know, Coinbase, all of these massive companies being like, hang on, we need some rules to operate here. And I think, you know, they lifted the rules on ETFs, so people can put it, you know, we have to look back on the government, and we need to like raise, like, you know, they said, don't buy Bitcoin, it's risky. But if we look at the price of Bitcoin to a house, you can almost buy a house with a Bitcoin, whereas they told us not to buy it. It was $50. So I think the tailwinds are really, really positive, and I think the government are taking it really seriously. I still think it's a slow process to really get the rules going, but on a community level, we have 57 events, ranging from like free community meetups to VIP dinners at wherever. And I think you can really feel the different communities coming together, the stable coins, the art, you know, so it's feeling buzzing, and you know, it's dangerous for our liver as we're trying to go to all of these different events because they all seem to have free drinks. So I think overall we are very, very lucky, and I really, really hope that we don't remember Germany and this cycle sold all their Bitcoin at 54,000 euros. Don't be Germany, okay? So I really, really hope you know, and we do a lot of work. We've got a project called Stand with Crypto. So we run Stand with Crypto UK. We now have 124,000 advocates. We're talking to MPs, we're running events, we're doing education, and we're really, really trying to be like, guys, let's understand this together. Let's build good sandboxes, and let's build an environment that brings jobs, innovation, investment to England. So we don't have to go to Dubai. We don't have to go to, I mean, like, you're dialing in from New York. Is there a hotter place in crypto right now than New York? Like, I'm not sure there is.
I mean, yeah, it's beautiful, the scene in New York. There's events basically multiple every week, sometimes in the same day. Like, it's just bustling. And like you said, it's kind of like slowly integrating with TradFi. I have like my hedge fund buddies being like, oh, what's Circle? What's their business going on over here? So it's been interesting, like watching these things slowly like merge over time.
What do you guys make of the proposed stablecoin limit rules that would cap individual holdings at £20,000?
I think it's one of those where they, I don't know who they've consulted, but what I respect so much in some of like the UAE and Abu Dhabi, they sort of got CZ and be like, what would you do? What would be like the perfect setup? Whereas I feel they're still in echo chambers of like, this narrow analysis says maybe this is good, but they haven't sort of delved into. But that's that. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of uproar, and it'd be a nightmare for it to happen. But I think the backlash from the industry, I doubt that they'll actually sort of get through. We're obviously in an interesting political part where it's starting to get taken more seriously, and people do vote on crypto policies. So I feel like it's not going to. It's unlikely to happen in the next year or two under the Labour government, and so it have to be put forward a bit more cohesively to be voted on.
Yeah, it seems absolutely mental, and it's it rather than trying to block the innovation, we need to be building a GBP stablecoin at speed. If I was in there right now, I'd be like, right, we have 6 months to come up with a GBP stablecoin. Let's make sure our currency goes into the new world order. We're in the global world that we're not going to mind what you pay with, and if everyone's using USDC, will we just use USDC? I view this as a sort of a national emergency. We've got to make sure that, that we're working out how the Bank of England can make a GBP stablecoin. And don't worry about, why would we limit us holding 10? Am I putting a limit on you for holding $20,000 of Facebook stock? What? That's so confusing to me. And it's almost, I love the image of, when the record companies were trying to stop piracy, it was like trying to stop downloading, and it's got a little fence and a huge field. You can't stop stablecoins and all of this stuff evolving, because it's going to happen. Why not us drive it forward from the UK? The GBP is such a good currency. Bring it on chain, support it, really move quickly, because the US is going to move quickly, and I think we miss out a huge opportunity for the UK. So I really hope they don't do that. And like I say, I saw Stanny from Arbe's response, and it was just like, I can't believe this. So I don't know how official the news is, but to Joel's point, I know the industry is a lot more grown up, and we will definitely lobby around stopping that from happening, I hope.
Joel, you mentioned sort of the political climate. How do you think a Nigel Farage leadership could impact the UK's crypto scene? Like, he's clearly very pro crypto. He spoke at DAS this morning. He's speaking at Zebu in a couple of weeks, or next week rather. How do you think that could change things?
Well, I think that because it's such a novel area. I think naturally politicians are quite risk averse, and so maybe more conservative with a small c politicians would not want to take many risks. And I feel like in such a fast innovation race, you do have to try and move fast or take risks, or go for it, rather than like you look at something like HS2 and it's like, that's the most expensive train line ever built by a human, and it's not even got finished because we just wrapped it in bureaucracy. We built the most expensive nuclear power plant ever built by humans, and we're not like the biggest nation. And it's like, if we would continue to get wrapped in just elongated cost benefit analysis, these sorts of things, rather than just actually try to have a more sharper policy environment to try and like embrace some of the innovation, then that could be good. And he might be someone that could do it, whether they implement it correctly or it's the right thing to do. But I do think that we should be, for want of a better term, like slightly bullish on trying to lead as a global digital asset hub. And maybe he's brave enough to say some of the things out and say, let's go for this. But that might just be as people vote with the polls we saw in Germany and France. The very far right wing get super high polls, but not actually get in. But they did take on board some of like the favourable policies that they were talking about. So I think it's important that we do try and keep up, because there's so much natural. Why would we let policy limit our ability to be a digital asset hub in terms of we've got lots of talent, we've got some capital. It's not quite on the US level, but no one's on the US level. So that's probably my overall thoughts on it.
Cool. Now, tell us about Zebu. What's happening? When is it happening? And why should people go?
Awesome. So Zebu Live is we're here for the 5th edition, which, if you've been in crypto, some people have been with 5 different jobs. So we survived 5 years, which in crypto is quite a long time. And this is a maturing year. We've got really like grown up businesses coming. We've got our normal crowd and we've got the mix. Got a full week of events, whether it starts on we got like an institutional paddle match when we got the Christian Murphy, the #1 UK player who we've sponsored, and we're going to be running stuff with him, so that'll be fun. And then we've got a sort of VIP dinner taking over Short's house, which is going to be amazing. Networking, and then we go on to Tobacco Docs, which is going to be 2 days, 3 stages, loads of room, loads of space to network. It's almost unconference, isn't it? When the quality of speakers is high, but also the quality of attendees. Lots of different tracks across the board. We got speakers flying in. We got Dan Held coming in from the US, who loves Bitcoin, and he's been if you follow him on Twitter, he's been tweeting about Bitcoin relentlessly, almost with a much bigger following. No one follows me, so I can just tweet. But he's been tweeting that, and so it's always exciting. And yeah, it's a mixture of lots of people. And then we have the SWC rally, where we're going to E1. So got 1,000 people, open bar, pizzas, and that's going to be really exciting. And then just a whole week of side events and KOL dinners and. Yeah, lots of different soirees, and Bonk are doing some stuff with Solana. Joel can probably add some more detail.
I think with events, curation is a really important meta that's coming in as the industry expands. And I think more and more you're seeing people only attend something that's curated for a specific target market. Whereas before, 4 years ago, a crypto event was niche. So like everyone you'd go to would be like a cracked founder, someone who's really interested. They're immediately curious. Whereas obviously now we're getting sort of more diluted with a ton of service providers, people who've traded Dogecoin and sort of showing up in some of these global crypto events. So I think Curation, like Harry said, there's I think sort of like 50 plus events, whether it's institutional paddle or like a builder's brunch. So that's a big thing on our agenda of like, we're obsessed with making those magical moments of like whether you're meeting your co-founder, getting some funding, these sorts of things. And I think an important thing for crypto that gives events PMF is like storytelling and attention are at odds. Digitally of like we're fried in terms of dopamine on the timeline. And I think if you do get on a captivating panel or you're at a high quality like networking event, there is a good opportunity to actually like get some decent storytelling done of making those magical moments happen. So I think we're always focused on how do we curate as many of those as possible. But it has been a really interesting year because like Harry alluded to, you've got this kind of Aeons, EY, Wisdom Tree, 21 Shares, Bitwise, as well as all these amazing startups and Web3 companies also building here alongside, head of innovation at the FCAs, people from the House of Lords. So there's an amazing mix across people that are interested, and the appetite has been probably higher than higher than ever, I would say, to like sort of like speak and show up. And so many people have actual product launches, whereas before people were just kind of like learning, whereas now it's like, hey, we've just built this L2 that's actually been under wraps in the R&D department for 5 years type piece. So I think it's an interesting inflection point.
I'm kind of curious, like actually over the years hosting a conference, how has market sentiment overall, like Meta's influenced the vibes that you guys observe and like get at the conferences?
It's been amazing. So in 2021, it was just like, let me in. We've come out of COVID, so like you haven't seen anyone outside of your flat, let alone outside of your friendship group. And so the vibe in that room, everyone was a bit anxious because they'd not spoken to people, and then 2020, the next year was just full. It just everyone was in an amazing spirit. The third year was obviously the bear market, and that was the year. That was the year that we went big and we went to Woolwich. And oh man, that was a hard year. Like even people that bought a ticket the year, but the sort of more entry level people who bought a ticket didn't want a free one because they just didn't want to look at crypto. They thought it was dead. And this year we're really, as Joel says, we're really seeing people that are building, that are looking to come to learn, but also to connect. And when we're so busy, we're not important. We're just busy, and so being on your Telegram is really hard to just have a random convo, or I don't quite have enough. I would love to speak to you, but I don't quite have enough of an important point to put in half an hour on your calendar. But if I catch you for 10, 15 minutes, none of us have a meeting, none of us, it's quite a nice way. Oh yeah, let's do that. I promise you I was going to write my guest post, or we're going to jump on a podcast, and I think those moments and building that community, I get really excited when I see him and the guys and everything that you guys are doing over there, and how you built over the years, and you're getting grown up, and I love seeing us obviously the actual grown up businesses are now meeting. And to Joel's point, Web3 is going from like wild white papers to actually revenue and businesses that are coming, and I love seeing that merge as we mature as an industry, and then mature industries enter. And I think we can really see that journey over each Zebu Live. We get that feeling, and a lot of the value I get from events is that finger on the pulse, isn't it? You hear the trends, because sometimes when you're so heads down in your own project, your own ecosystem, which is why I do think cross ecosystem events are good, because we are seeing a trend of Sui run their own event, Cardano run their own event, ETH run their own event, and this is a cross ecosystem event. It is actually a really good. Remember, we're all in a blue ocean. We're all building together. Let's like look up for a moment and remember like kind of why we're all here and why we're so excited about building this generational change that we've been talking about for 12 or 13 years. And as we hit kind of what are we 2025, we are 4 or 5 years away from crypto going back into being back end boring tech, and the brands being at the face. When we talk about BlackRock, we're not talking about how they're doing their trades or ICE or whatever, however they're doing. And we're talking about that trusted, serious brand that they lead with. And I really think crypto will have much bigger purpose-led brands, and the tech will drift much further backwards and just start working.
Understood. I kind of want to circle back. You kind of touched on over the years the vibes, but like maybe 1 or 2 remarkable moments from previous Zebu lives that just like pop in your mind immediately when you think about the conference.
We definitely had so first one we had Stanny. It was called DeFi Live back then. That was like the first ever conference that we ran, and I think he had to. That was when he was just like Etherlend had just rebranded to Aave, super early doors, and he was coming in and he got a fire alarm, and then it means like he couldn't finish his stream, and we were like, oh no, he was like a headline speaker. It was like a absolute classic, and now he's in the White House. So that in 4 years, that's the journey crypto's been in, of just like speaking at anything, this sort of company here, into like regular meetings in the White House. And I think like that's sort of the amazing part of where crypto's been on that growth journey, from small startups into that. That's probably one that's up there.
I think a big moment for me would be the first time we had Stephen Bartlett. He rocked up, and he had like a 50-50, like people were like, oh, why is it a crypto event? But he actually bought Third Web, which announced the whole press release the sort of week before he came on stage. And he's a very good speaker. He does it all day, and he really just, his ability to control an audience is phenomenal. And then he did actually have this amazing crypto story. And everyone was a bit like, is this good? And then everyone, like, by the end of it, was just clapping and wanting to get a photo, and amazing. And then we went on to go and like merge with Flight3, and so that kind of changed our whole trajectory of our business. And so that was quite an exciting moment. And then the second point is just seeing the people that have come as in year one as sort of what I call a crypto enthusiast, aka they had a job and they bought some Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, and then seeing them come back in year four in a role at Sui or in a role at Solana, and like watching them go from crypto enthusiasts and then 4 years later being in industry and being like, I met them at Zebu Live, and I made that connection at Zebu Live, and that just gives me that feeling of like, we done our little bit. And because we're very lucky in the sense that we are just the ringleader, what everyone else is doing all of the work, and there's 55 community partners that are all putting in time and effort and their community, like, so it's really just a collective. And I'm really, really hopeful that we can make London, when I watch what Dubai are doing, I'm like, wow, they're 5 or 6 years in front of us. And I still think when we look at where you are in New York and we look at you in, we're 2025, if we go back just a year, what you guys have achieved in the year, it shows what can be done. And people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. And I hope by this time next year, the real Web3 movement is happening in London, and that we keep pace with New York. So that's the small kind of effort I'm trying to create.
Amazing. It's an exciting vision. And that is all we have time for today. I want to thank Harry and Joel for this episode. And as a reminder, the newsroom works tirelessly to get you accurate, informed crypto news. If you want to stay ahead, read the blog. Thanks, and see you next time.